Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India Live, India's voice to the world. I'm Tanvita Neja, coming up in the next 30 minutes. In a major breakthrough, India-China LAC disengagement completed, patrolling to begin soon on the LAC. US mediators work on a truce proposal to halt hostilities between Israel and Lebanon. Sources say new proposal calls for a 60-day truce. And Russia confirms North Korean and Russian foreign ministers to hold strategic consultations in Moscow. Details to be released later. The disengagement exercise between India and China in Depsang and Demchok has been completed. According to defense sources, the Indian armed forces are conducting verification process. Sources also added that coordinated patrolling will start soon by both sides. Ground commanders will continue to hold talks. Sources also said that the two sides will exchange sweets for Diwali on Thursday. The Indian and Chinese troops were verifying the vacation of positions and removal of temporary infrastructure. Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri on October 21st announced that New Delhi and Beijing reached an agreement to disengage in the remaining friction points at the LAC near eastern Ladakh. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal is visiting Saudi Arabia to explore new avenues of economic cooperation. During the visit, Piyush Goyal inaugurated the Lulu Wali Diwali at the Lulu hypermarket in Riyadh. Wishing Happy Diwali to everyone. He highlighted the role of the Indian diaspora in preserving the country's traditions and enriching Saudi Arabia's cultural landscape. The minister also said that the celebration strengthens the bond between India and Saudi Arabia. Piyush Goyal is participating in the 8th edition of the Future Investment Initiative in Riyadh. He held a meeting with Peter Herwerk, CEO of Schneider Electric, a global company specializing in energy management and digital automation with a strong presence in our country. Piyush Goyal discussed the company's investment plans for India and how it can leverage the nation's talent pool and government support to provide high-tech, sustainable and energy-efficient solutions to the world. Piyush Goyal met William E. Ford, chairman and CEO of the global growth investment firm General Atlantic. He discussed the company's potential to collaborate with India's healthcare sector, especially in consumer-focused health enterprises. Additionally, the potential for expansion of their investment in global capability centers was explored, as well as in various other sectors of the country. The United States Department of State said on Tuesday that Israel's decision to ban the UN relief agency UNRWA could have consequences under US laws. A law passed by Israel on Monday to ban the UN Palestinian Refugee Agency from operating inside Israel has raised concerns about its ability to provide relief in Gaza after over a year of war. The agency, which employs thousands of people in Gaza, provides nearly the entire population of the coastal enclave with basic supplies and needs access through Israel.
We are deeply troubled by this legislation. It could shutter UNRWA operations in the West Bank, in Gaza, in East Jerusalem. There could be consequences under U.S. law and U.S. policy for the implementation of this legislation. We are going to engage with the government of Israel in the days ahead about how they plan to implement it.
Israel continued its campaign against Hezbollah with new strikes in southern Lebanon. Plumes of smoke were visible from Lebanon's Marja Yun as Israeli strikes hit the outskirts of Kiam village near the border with Israel on Tuesday. Cross-border fighting between Israel and Hezbollah began a year ago when the group started firing rockets in support of Gaza's Palestinian terrorist group. At the beginning of October, Israel launched a ground operation within Lebanon to attempt to stabilize the border area for Israeli citizens who had fled rocket attacks in northern Israel. Also, Israel's military chief has warned Iran to stand down from any retaliation for Israel's airstrikes near Tehran last week, which followed an Iranian missile barrage on October 1st.
If Iran makes the mistake of launching another missile barrage at Israel, we will once again know how to reach Iran with capabilities that we did not even use this time, and strike very, very hard at both their capabilities and locations that we set aside for now.
Russia launched an overnight airstrike on Ukraine's Kiev on Wednesday, injuring at least 9. Russia struck the region with 62 drones, out of which Ukraine's air defense units destroyed 33. The drone debris caused fire in a multi-story apartment building. Firefighters evacuated 19 people from flats in an apartment building with several windows blown out. This is the 19th air attack on Kiev in October. Meanwhile, Russia's air defense units destroyed 23 drones launched in a Ukrainian overnight airstrike. President Vladimir Putin kicked off the training exercise on Tuesday at a critical point in the Ukraine conflict. Russia's Defense Minister Andrei Belousov said that the exercise aims to simulate a massive nuclear strike in response to the first strike by an enemy. The Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov said that the drill was a regular planned event, involved the launch of ballistic and cruise missiles. Defense Ministry further added that as part of the exercise, a Yars intercontinental ballistic missile was launched from the Plesetsk Cosmodrome in northwest Russia to the Kura test range in Kamchatka in the Far East.
Добрый день.
We are conducting another exercise of strategic deterrence forces. We will work out the actions of officials in controlling the use of nuclear weapons with practical launches of ballistic and cruise missiles. I would like to stress out that we are not going to be involved in a new arms race, but we will maintain nuclear forces at the level of necessary sufficiency.
On to the race for the White House. The issue of illegal immigrants has taken center stage in the U.S. presidential elections. Donald Trump has promised to crack down on illegal immigration and restrict legal immigration if elected as president. All along his campaign, he has been vilifying immigrants and has pledged to launch the largest deportation effort in U.S. history. To gauge what American voters think of the issue, DD India's Amritpal Singh travelled to the US-Mexico border, from where most of the illegal crossing over into the United States takes place. Take a look.
I'm right now standing at the US-Mexico border. What you see behind me is that bridge which connects the United States of America with Mexico. Now, as the issue of immigration or illegal immigration has taken center stage in these elections, especially with Donald Trump raking it up, Kamala Harris is also treading soft on the issue, saying she realizes the immigration system is broken and it needs to be fixed, and she will bring a bill on it and sign it into a law if the Congress passes it. But is that really an issue which matters to the Americans? The Americans say migrants, illegal or legal, contribute much to their society.
They're not our problem. Like, in reality, they were from America.
It's just so dehumanizing. We're a nation of immigrants.
But there are others who have bought into Trump.
There's been occasions where you see illegals running up and down here with no clothes on, carrying bags. There's also been issues with illegals jumping in people's backyards, hiding in people's vehicles. And so you're asking if that's an issue. Yes, absolutely, it's an issue.
Then there are those who disagree with Trump's radical proposals but say the immigration system needs to be fixed.
I think immigration is good, not an open border with people rushing through.
So what you see behind me is the Rio Grande River, hardly a river, just a stream that divides Mexico and the United States of America. It is just knee-deep water that can be easily crossed over. That is why you see the kind of illegal immigration through the southern border of Mexico. But the U.S. also has a fence, but it has surveillance here. You can see security cameras. You can see the border patrol personnel. If the Department of Homeland Security's 2022 data is to be believed, there are 11 million illegal migrants in United States of America, and that is why Donald Trump realizes this issue can be raked up to get votes to come into his kitty. Statistics from the U.S. Homeland Security, however, indicate that there is no direct link between crime and immigrants, any more than it is for naturalized U.S. citizens. Whatever the reality, immigration has become a contentious issue in this election season. The question is, will it lead to significant political dividend for Donald Trump? With cameraman Sanjay Jaina, Amritpal Singh from the Mexico-US border in Texas.
So early voting is underway in the key swing state of Georgia. Nearly 40% of the registered voters have cast their ballots. DD India's Shubhendu Ghosh visits a polling booth in Atlanta and evaluates the mood of the voters there.
We are at an early voting station in Atlanta. This is the capital of Georgia, one of the 7 swing states which are expected to determine the outcome of the US presidential elections. Some 2.6 million voters have already cast their ballot. That's about 40% of the registered voters here. Georgia has 16 electoral votes for grabs. The early voting started on October 15th, will continue till 1st of November. In 2016, it was Donald Trump who won the state. In 2020, it was Joe Biden.
Voting early shows that you actually do truly care about what is happening in this country or what's going to happen to it. We can kind of turn around a whole situation of the voting. Yeah, I think our votes definitely do matter the most.
Everyone has a set agenda, and they want to have different laws or different things put in place. So I think it's very important to see who you're voting for.
A lot of people my age don't have like a good awareness about voting, and like they see it as something that they should let like other people vote for, and that they don't have control. If I could get more of my people to vote, it'll be very good for like the betterment of our society.
We are living in a country that was built on us but not for us, and in order for my community to have a better future, I believe that early voting is the right choice to make. I mean, our votes mattered when we got Obama into office. Our vote mattered when we got Joe into office, and we can do the same thing for Kamala.
I hope that everybody gets out and votes and does it in early voting so that they have plenty of time to calculate all of the ballots and there's no question marks about what happened and who won. I think it's really important that we're able to usher in the next generation of leaders and people that are coming from all kinds of backgrounds and colors and religions, and I think that it's really important for us to embrace that as we move forward.
Georgia was a swing state in the last presidential election, but I'm afraid we're not going to be, we are a swing state, but I'm afraid Donald Trump might win the state this time, which is not what I nor my husband, I think, would want. We're very anti-Trump and think he's a fascist and presents an enormous danger to our country and to democracy as we know it.
For Donald Trump to win Georgia, he must keep the sizable Republican voter base intact. He's also trying to chip away at the Democrat support base of black voters. For Kamala Harris, the black voters must come out in support in large number for her. With camera person Jaishankar, Shubhendu Ghosh for DD India in Atlanta.
Still to come on this edition of DD India Live. Deadly flooding reported in southeastern Spain. Pedro Sanchez says government will do everything to help the victims.
Who will be the next president of United States of America?
Will Donald Trump make a dramatic comeback, or will Kamala Harris become America's first woman president?
It's a tight race to the White House.
The knives are out and the battle lines sharply drawn.
He's becoming increasingly unstable and unhinged.
She's a threat to democracy because she shouldn't even be the candidate.
I'm Amritpal Singh.
I'm Shubhendu Ghosh.
We travel across the United States
to decode the issues at the heart of this polarized election.
Watch this space only on DD India.
Welcome back. You are watching DD India Live. I am Tanvi Taneja. North Korean Foreign Minister Cho Son-hu will hold strategic consultations in Moscow with her Russian counterpart Sergei Lavrov. Russia's foreign ministry said that North Korean minister was on her way to Moscow and that details of her talks with Lavrov, including the exact timing, would be released later. The visit, the minister's second to Russia in 6 weeks, comes as the Russia-Ukraine war appears to have taken a dangerous new turn, with NATO and South Korea expressing alarm over North Korean troops that could be joining in on Moscow's side. At least 62 people have died in Spain's deadliest flooding in 3 decades following torrential rain in Valencia. Roads and towns were submerged and dramatic footage showed people trapped by flood waters, with some climbing trees to escape. Rescue workers have been using bulldozers and boats to reach those stranded. Train services to Madrid and Barcelona have been cancelled, and schools and essential services are suspended in the hardest hit areas. Meanwhile, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez has said that the government will use all necessary means to help victims of the deadly flash floods which have killed at least 62 people so far. The European Union is imposing tariffs on electric vehicles from China starting Wednesday. The EU and China had been negotiating in trade talks to find a solution, but the talks failed. The EU calls them proportionate, but China doesn't agree. For more on this, we are joined by DW correspondent Varda Imran in Berlin. Varda, tell us about these EU tariffs.
Thanks for having me. The EU and China have been locked in an intense dispute over duties on electric vehicles from China for months. You've probably heard the EU's talking point about how Chinese EV companies received subsidies from the Chinese government, which the EU alleges led to Beijing offering cheaper prices. And these less expensive offerings have had a big impact. Sales of Chinese EVs in Europe jumped from 3.9% in 2020 to 25% in September last year. That's big growth. Brussels says these subsidies that the companies received were unfair. And after attempts to find a solution, the EU announced tariffs up to 35% on incoming Chinese EVs.
Varda, so what has been China's response to this?
Well, pretty much what is expected. China has already lodged a complaint at the World Trade Organization over these tariffs. The first reaction was Beijing saying it did not agree or accept these extra duties and have vowed to take all necessary measures to protect their companies, just as the EU is doing here. In response, China has already imposed their own tariffs on EU products. In a very tit-for-tat response, Beijing is fighting back. However, trade tensions between EU and China are not just about EV subsidies. Brussels is also investigating Chinese subsidies for solar panels and wind turbines. In recent months, Canada and the US have also imposed heavy-duty tariffs on Chinese EVs.
Thank you, Varda Imran, joining us from DW Berlin. India's Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in Gujarat on a 2-day visit. During this visit, Prime Minister inaugurated and laid the foundation stone of various infrastructural and developmental projects worth over 280 crore rupees in Ekta Nagar, Kevadia. Prime Minister Modi will also offer floral tribute at the Statue of Unity, which will be followed by Rashtra Ekta Divas celebrations on 31st of October, that is tomorrow. The filing of nomination papers for Maharashtra Assembly, which will vote on November 20th, ended on Tuesday. The verification and scrutiny of nomination papers took place today. The last date for withdrawal of candidature is November 4th. Nearly 8,000 candidates, including those from major political parties in the ruling Mahayuti as well as the opposition Mahavikas Aghadi, Filed nominations for the 288 assembly seats in Maharashtra at the end of the process. The ruling BJP is contesting 148 assembly seats in Maharashtra, the highest among half a dozen major political parties in the ruling and opposition camps, followed by the Congress, in which it is contesting on 103 seats. In Jharkhand, the nomination exercise for the second phase of the assembly polls ended on Tuesday with a total of 634 candidates filing their papers. On Tuesday, as many as 297 aspirants submitted their documents to contest elections in 38 seats that would go to polls in the second phase on November 20th. The scrutiny of papers took place on Wednesday. The candidates can withdraw their nominations by November 1st. The first phase of election will be held on 13th of November in the state. Uttar Pradesh Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath on Wednesday inaugurated the first Deepotsav in Ayodhya. On Deepavali, the ancient city of Ayodhya is set to host an extraordinary celebration, offering visitors a spiritual and cultural journey. The Uttar Pradesh government is all set to attempt a Guinness World Record by trying to light over 28 lakh earthen lamps in Ayodhya. Cricket fans around the world are eagerly waiting for the announcement of the players' retentions for the upcoming edition of the Indian Premier League. The BCCI has set a deadline till October 31st for the franchises to finalize their retentions. As this year will be a mega auction, the franchises are allowed to retain as many as 6 players, of which at least one has to be uncapped Indian player. A lot of big names like KL Rahul, Rohit Sharma and Rishabh Pant have been rumoured to be entering the auction pool. American actress Terry Garr died at the age of 79 in Los Angeles, California. She passed away due to complications of multiple sclerosis. An Academy Award nominee, the comedy actress is known for movies like Young Frankenstein and Tootsie. Dipanshu Kashyap brings us more.
A comic actor and ballet dancer, Terry Garr had a prolific screen career that spanned over 4 decades. Born to show business parents on December 11, 1944, Garr studied acting at the renowned Actors Studio in New York. Her early work included a film appearance as a background dancer in Elvis Presley's Viva Las Vegas, as well as television shows like Star Trek and Batman. She got her big break in 1974 when Mel Brooks cast her in the horror comedy Young Frankenstein. From comedy to drama, she worked in acclaimed films directed by renowned directors including Steven Spielberg's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Sidney Pollack's Tootsie, and Martin Scorsese's After Hours, among others. The actor disclosed her diagnosis of multiple sclerosis in 2002. She became an advocate for research and treatment of the condition. Garr said her sense of humor helped her persevere through health challenges. Her on-screen appearances will continue to entertain generations to come. Dipanshu Kashyap's report for DD India.
That's all for this edition of DD India Live. Do let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. Connect with us on our different social media handles at DD India Live. And of course, you can download our DD India mobile app for quick news and updates on the go. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Tanvi Taneja, wishing all our viewers a very happy Diwali. Namaskar.